Hello there, everybody. This is Rob, the baseball time traveler. You know, sometimes when you spend a lot of time collecting cards and following certain players and just digging deep into the history of the game, you kind of find some things that you really want to focus on. And what I've been focusing on the last couple of months is the 1930s. And in my estimation, I think it's underappreciated in the hobby, frankly. I watch a lot of YouTube content, and there's so many great channels that offer information and review cards and so forth of the pre-war, which in my definition almost seems like, based on what I'm seeing in content, is the pre-World War One, the T206s and the T205s and even the American caramels, all those, and the Cracker Jacks, all the 19 teens and the early 1920s. And the forgotten decade to me is the 1930s. And you have so many iconic players that participated during that decade that I wanted to focus my collecting and my research, at least for the next period of time, on that decade, and wanted to present to you my all-decade team. I thought it would be kind of fun to give you my thoughts on some of the players that I think deserve all-decade, so to speak, recognition, and I want to show you some cards as well. So without further delay, let's move it forward here. My first baseman is going to be none other than Lou Gehrig. Lou Gehrig, first baseman, New York Yankees, had a wonderful career. The bottom of the page there, you'll see he had a .343 batting average during the decade. Now, just as a heads up, the players that I picked, all the statistics you may hear or see on the screen, relate only to the 1930s. Some of their careers started in the 20s and ended in the 30s. Others started in the 30s and ended in the 40s and even into the 50s. So that's just a little disclaimer at the start. But Lou Gehrig had a .343 batting average during the 1930s, 1,800 hits, 347 home runs, and 1,358 RBI. And there's Lou Gehrig's card, the 1934 Gowdy. Really happy to have this card. Okay, at second base, the mechanical man, Charlie Gehringer, Detroit Tigers. Great ball player. Take a look at his statistics. .331 batting average, 1,865 hits, had over 1,000 RBI, and here's Charlie's card. And Charlie was not only a great hitter, he was considered one of the best defensive second basemen in the history of baseball. At third base, a player maybe a lot of you who are seeing this video have never heard of. This is a guy named by the name of Robert Red Rolfe, who played for the New York Yankees, third base, and he is the only non-Hall of Famer on my all-decade team. But I could not leave Red Rolfe off this roster. And the reason is that Red was a member of the Bronx Bombers. He batted ahead of Joe DiMaggio, Lou Gehrig, and Bill Dickey in the order. He batted second, and he had a .305 batting average, over 1,000 hits during the decade. He was a four-time All-Star, and keep in mind that the All-Star game didn't start until 1933. So for him to be named an All-Star in the last 4 years of the 30s, pretty impressive. He was also a five-time World Series champion, and that's one of the criteria that I used, that some of these players may not be the big names, the Hall of Famers, but boy, that they have an impact on helping lead their team to some championship seasons. And let's take a quick look at a Diamond Stars card of Red Rolfe. Next, at shortstop, another player that many of you may not be familiar with. One of the best shortstops, if not the best shortstop in the history of the game. I'm sure I get a lot of flack for that, but that's just an opinion. But Arky Vaughan of the Pittsburgh Pirates, really good player. Solid defense, and the batting average there in the 1930s speaks for itself. .329, over 1,400 hits, and it scored a lot of runs, 754 runs. Arky Vaughan. Let's take a look at Arky's card. 1939 play ball. Next, at catcher, one of my favorite players, Bill Dickey, very good friend of Lou Gehrig, just a class act. He was a mentor to a fellow Hall of Fame pitcher who followed Bill in his career. Also went number 8, and that would be none other than Yogi Berra. But Bill Dickey, quite a ball player. Again, right at the middle of the run that the Yankees had in the 1930s. During 1930s, he batted .320, had over 1,400 hits, almost 1,000 RBI, and Bill Dickey was just a solid defensive player, and no argument that he was one of the best catchers of all time. And here's Bill's 1939 play ball card, one of those classic baseball cards. Everybody that I've talked to has seen this card, loves it. All right, next, the Bambino, Babe Ruth. Now, Babe only played basically 4.5 years in the 1930s, but there's no question I had to include him on the all-decade team. His impact on not only the Yankees and their success in the 20s and the early 30s while he was a member of the team, but the impact that he had on baseball. And there's no question statistically he could match up with virtually anybody. And let's just take a quick look at a nice picture of Babe. And here's one of Babe's cards that I have. This is the 1929 Churchman's. One of my favorite cards. And in center field, a guy who played the last 4 seasons of the 1930s. It was almost as if Babe Ruth passed the baton to Joe DiMaggio, who in 4 years during the end of the 1930s put together some really impressive statistics. .341 batting average, almost 800 hits, 137 home runs, and was just a fantastic defensive center fielder, and was really the leader of that team. When he came on board, the Yankees just gelled, and he batted 3rd in the order, right ahead of Lou Gehrig and Bill Dickey. He was a 4-time All-Star every year of 36, 37, 38, and 39. He was the MVP in 1939, Joltin' Joe DiMaggio. Let's take a look at his 1939 play ball card. There you go, another one of my prized possession cards. In right field, had to put Mel Ott out there, 5'9", but he could hit home runs with anybody. In fact, he was the second person to exceed 500 home runs, finished his career with 511. And Mel, during the decade, had a .313 batting average, hit over 300 home runs during the decade, scored 1,095 runs, and played a heck of a defensive outfield in right field. And later in the 30s was moved into third base. But I know him more as a right fielder, and he was one heck of a ball player, Mel Ott. Let's take a look at his 1939 play ball card as well. Next, I took a little bit of liberty and used the modern game. We got designated hitter Jimmy Fox. And Jimmy Fox probably statistically had the most impressive decade in the 1930s. He batted .336, had 1,845 hits, over 400 home runs, over 1,400 RBI. Jimmy Fox, one heck of a player, and he would be my designated hitter all day. And the reason why I put him at designated hitter, he played first base, third base, and catcher during the course of the 1930s. I couldn't kick Bill Dickey or Lou Gehrig out, so I thought Jimmy would be my best designated hitter. I don't have a Jimmy Fox card, but there's Jimmy on the cover of the 1939 Who's Who in Baseball. I also picked 2 pinch hitters, none other than Detroit Tigers first baseman Hank Greenberg. Wonderful hitter, hit 58 home runs one year. And my second one would be Chuck Klein, who played for the Philadelphia Phillies, Chicago Cubs, and later with the Pittsburgh Pirates. and won the MVP, I believe, in 1932. Great all-around hitter and player. And there's Chuck in the 1933 All-Star Game. And I almost forgot to show you their cards. Here's Hank's 1939 play ball. And here's Chuck's. Now we move to one of the best pitchers of all time, Lefty Grove. Played for the Philadelphia Athletics at the turn of the 1930s, and then later in the decade moved over to the Boston Red Sox. Had a wonderful career. Look at that. During the decade, he won 199 games and only lost 76. Had over 1,300 strikeouts. Lefty Grove. Another lefty, Vernon Lefty Gomez, New York Yankees. Another great pitcher. Had a great 1930 to 39 stretch where he won 165 games, had over 1,300 strikeouts, under 3 ERA. He was a 7-time All-Star, 5-time World Series champion. And one interesting statistic with lefty sets him apart from anybody. He was never defeated in 6 World Series games. And I'm falling behind here on showing cards. Sorry about that. Here's Lefty. I don't have Lefty's card. This is from the 1982 Big League Collectibles. I hope to get a Lefty Grove card someday. And then here's Lefty Gomez's card, 1939 play ball. All right, now we move to King Carl Hubbell, New York Giants. Great left-handed pitcher, known for his screwball. 188 wins during the decade, 6-time All-Star. He's famous for his 1934 All-Star performance where he struck out 5 future Hall of Famers in a row. None other than Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Jimmy Fox, Al Simmons, and Joe Cronin. And Al Simmons and Joe Cronin, by the way, did not make my final cut for the All-Decade team, but they would be first on the reserve list for sure. And here's Carl's card, 1939 play ball. See a theme here. I've been collecting the 1939 play ball set. I don't intend to get the entire set, but I certainly want to get all the Hall of Famers, and I now have acquired all of them, but for a guy who happened to be a rookie in 1939, that'd be number 9, Boston Red Sox, Ted Williams. The next pitcher on the list is one that may not be well known to a lot of people, but he is a future Hall of Famer. Red Ruffing, New York Yankees. Came to the Yankees in the early 1930s after having kind of a rough start in his pitching career. But once he turned on and into the pinstripes, he went crazy and had a super career. 175 wins, 1,275 strikeouts. He was a 6-time All-Star. Again, part of that vaunted Yankees team, won 5 World Series during the 1930s. And here's Red's card, 1939 play ball. And last but not least, I'm going to have a relief pitcher, and that'd be none other than Dizzy Dean. Who could lead Dizzy Dean off an all-decade team for the 1930s? A member of the famous Gas House Gang, the 1934 St. Louis Cardinals with Leo DeRocher and Pepper Martin, Joe Ducky Medwick. What a great team. And Dizzy was one of the leaders of that team. He's the last 30-game winner in the National League. Just a phenomenal pitcher. Sadly, his career was really curtailed by an injury he sustained in the 1937 All-Star game. He was hit by a ball that Earl Averill, future Hall of Famer, hit Dizzy in the foot, and that impacted his recovery. He came back too quickly, adjusted his pitching mechanics to avoid further injury of the foot, and that ended up messing up his arm, and his career was essentially curtailed from there. But Dizzy Dean, can't leave him off the list. And here's his 1982 Big League Collectibles card. All right, folks, that will do it. I will now like to ask you to submit your picks. Leave them in the comments. And I'm going to be starting a new series this month in baseball. So I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks for watching.